This lecture is talking about what is the problem when you are confronting the term social justice. And obviously, it's a big term and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So let's just jump and wade in. Here's the question. Is social justice the problem? Is social justice the solution to a problem? Many times when we talk about social justice, there are a lot of hidden terms in there that we hope that whoever's listening to us gets a hold of. Most frequently, when we're talking about social justice, we're talking about some kind of inequity that needs justice in order to make it better or right or more equal. So we could talk about social inequities and why different groups of people are marginalized in certain kinds of ways, and that could be a discussion about social justice. Is social justice and the need for it the problem? Is it the problem itself? Are we suggesting a solution? All of that can just become very thorny when you're trying to have a cogent conversation with a lot of different people. So where I want to start is by saying that many of us have an instinct that while there are a lot of problems resulting from bias and inequity, there might be a baseline concern underlying all of those problems as well. Not to say that those aren't problems, they are, but to say that maybe there's something underneath that we need to look at also. Dr. John A. L. Powell is a professor at Berkeley, the University of Berkeley, and he is one of the foremost thinkers in the field of equality, diversity, social justice, all of those kinds of things. He started an institute called the Othering and Belonging Institute because he believes that othering is the central habit from which bias, oppression, and inequity grow. And I have found that to be a really helpful place to start. Let's face it, we live in this world and injustice and inequity is familiar. I love the saying by Mr. Therbon that there's inequity in this world because so many people are denied the opportunity to live a life of dignity, to try out their own interests in life, and to make use of their existing potential. And when there are some of us who get to do that and some of us who don't, examining why and asking yourself some questions about it seems like a reasonable place to go. There are four basic factors at the heart of social differences. The first one is natural endowments of individuals or groups or territories. A great example of that is I'm very tall and my daughter is actually pretty short. So I can reach the top shelf of stuff and she can't. And that's the beginning of perhaps a way in which we're different from each other. And a way in which I might have access to the top two shelves of something because I'm that much taller than she is, and she might have to ask me to get those things down. And you think about groups, different groups have different qualities to them. And we can use those qualities to make fun of or to co-opt or to segregate that group away from the group that we're in. And that's another example of how differences of natural endowments might work. The way that it works in territories is that the endowments of Texas are very different than the endowments of Alaska. We both have oil. We both are huge states. Texas has more humans and more farmable land, more places where you can build things, fewer glaciers. There are reasons why Texas is different from Alaska in terms of natural endowments that may cause some differences in terms of how successful we all are on the world market. So that's natural endowments. If you think about systematic arrangements or opportunities and rewards for individuals and groups, you can certainly think about things like if you have a certain degree, you might be more likely to get a certain kind of job. And there's a systematic arrangement of that. Here's school, and everybody can go to school, and the higher you get up in the grades, the less opportunities there are for everyone to get to stay in school. for a variety of different reasons, but what ends up happening is there are differences. And that's because of the way our system is set up to give weight and credibility and value to educational degrees. If we had a society that was set up where those things didn't matter, the world would look really different. The performance or productivity of designated people, when I think about that, I think about elected officials. We elect them, we hope that they will be fair and reasonable, and maybe they do something that goes against our value system or against someone else's, but we've given them power, and how they behave has something to do with how differences play out. And then individual, collective, and distributive action, including that action by the state, also has something to do with basic social differences. It's the state that decides who qualifies for welfare and who doesn't. It's the state that decides a variety of different kinds of things that mean that we may be in one group of people that's more affluent, effective, heard more often, or we might be part of another group that is overlooked or not counted. And so there are some differences that don't just come from me and you because we're in different groups, but come from where we live and how things are organized. So this semester, we're going to touch on a wide range of issues. In this class, I'm really committed to giving you tools to understand different cultures, to understand the mechanisms of change, and to find your own voice and your own place in thinking about social justice and how you might want to participate. I'm not going to tell you a lot of right or wrong. I'm not going to tell you what I think is right and what you think is wrong, or what you think is right and what I think is wrong. These are not topics that everyone agrees upon, but there are ways and frameworks and words and tactics that we can take to have meaningful dialogue and to be critical thinkers about these issues. And that's what I'm hoping that you'll get out of this class. In addition to that, I hope that you will learn more about other people's cultures and about the impact of inequity, not just on the person who is being marginalized, but on us all. When somebody asks the question, why can't we all just get along? The answers are wide and many. But the question of inequality is probably going to be answered with a moral answer first, and then a systems or sociological answer. And that's part of the reason that we all have such different experiences and feelings around these things, is that we each have our own moral center and our own thoughts about what is okay and what is not okay. And therefore, we come to different conclusions about what it might mean to have equal access to something. My observation has been that most people want to have a social rules-oriented set of solutions to inequalities that affect them personally. For me, that would be, I want there to be some kind of a law or a rule that says that you can't exclude me from something just because I am female, or just because I'm old, or just because my skin is brown. That you need to give me the same choices that would be true if I had a completely different set of attributes. And yeah. Most of us don't spend a ton of time thinking about how inequities affect people in groups that we're not a part of. So hopefully we'll be able to bridge out a little bit and start thinking not only about the ways in which the world treats us unequally, but the way that other people might be treated unequally as well. Inequality and injustice may be facts of the matter. It is the world that we live in right this minute. But there's not just one problem, one outcome, or one solution. There are many. We don't agree about them. And so I suspect that we're going to have to get a lot better at feeling uncomfortable about stuff. And because that is true, I think that it is in our interest to find ways to be very tender. And I choose this word tender purposefully, in that You can be thoughtful, you can be kind, you can be open-minded. In fact, I hope that you're all of those things. But if nothing else, I hope that you will allow yourself to be tender and to proceed gently as we have these conversations and recognize the tenderness of other folks.